The small ship landed softly on the rocky ground of planet Veros. The door opened with a hiss, and Neri stepped out. She took a deep breath through her air filter and looked around with wide eyes. This was her first real expedition as a scientist. "Don't wander off," said Dai, her team leader. "The sensors show large life forms moving 2 kilometers north." Neri nodded, but her mind was already racing with excitement. The Ilunian Science Academy had picked her for this mission because she was the best at plant studies. Her thin blue fingers carefully adjusted the protective suit that covered her delicate body. "Our shields will hold for 3 days," Dai continued, his tall, slender form towering over Neri. "We must collect our samples and leave before then." The Ilunians were not built for dangerous places. Their home world had no large predators, and over time their bodies had become fragile. Their skin was thin, their bones light, and they had no natural defenses. But their minds were sharp, and their technology was advanced. "I understand the risks," Neri said, checking her sample kit. "But the plants here could help our people. They might have properties we've never seen before." Day looked worried. "Just follow the safety rules. No one goes anywhere alone." 4 other Ilunian scientists exited the ship. They all wore the same protective blue suits with clear helmets. The suits would shield them from minor injuries, but they wouldn't stop the teeth or claws of Veros's larger animals. "Team meeting in 5 minutes, Day announced. "We'll go over the plan one more time." While the others prepared the base camp, Neri walked to the edge of their landing site. The landscape of Veros was beautiful and strange. Purple grass-like plants covered the ground. Tall trees with silver bark reached toward the orange sky. In the distance, floating rocks hovered above a deep canyon. Neri's scanner beeped, detecting unusual energy from the plants nearby. This was exactly what she had hoped to find. She knelt down to examine a cluster of glowing flowers. "Amazing," she whispered. "These plants are producing their own energy field." A loud roar echoed from the forest beyond. Neri jumped up, her heart racing. Something big was out there. "Neri, get back to the ship now," Da called. She hurried back, clutching a sample she had quickly taken. Inside their ship's meeting room, Dai showed a map on the large screen. "We detected 7 large predators in this area," he said, pointing to red dots moving on the map. "The locals call them razorbacks. They hunt in groups and can tear through metal." The other scientists looked nervous. One of them, Tay, asked, "Should we find another location?" "The Academy wants samples from this specific region," Day replied. "We'll use our hover vehicles and stay inside the shield perimeter. No risks." Just then, their ship's alert system beeped loudly. "What's that?" asked Neri. Their pilot, Sun, checked the screen. His eyes widened. "Another ship is entering the atmosphere. It's not Ilunian." Everyone fell silent. "Show me," ordered Da. The screen changed to show a ship unlike any they had seen before. It was larger than theirs, with a rugged design that suggested it was built for difficult environments. "Who are they?" Neri asked. "Unknown," Sun replied. "But based on the design, they might be from the species called humans." Humans. Neri had heard stories about them, but had never seen one. They were supposed to be tough, adaptable creatures from a harsh world. "They're landing 7 kilometers east of us," Sun reported. Day looked concerned. "Change of plans. We need to know what they're doing here. Neri, you and Min will take a hover vehicle to observe them from a safe distance. Do not make contact." Neri's heart beat faster with excitement. This expedition had just become much more interesting than she expected. Not only would she study alien plants, but she might see actual humans too. As she prepared for the observation mission, Neri had no idea how soon her path would cross with these mysterious humans, or how one of them would soon save her life. The human ship, ESV Pathfinder, landed with a heavy thud on the rocky surface of Veros. Inside, Joan checked his gear one last time. His captain, Han, gathered the crew for final instructions. "Our scanners picked up unusual energy readings in this area. Han said, pointing to a map. June, you'll scout ahead. The rest of us will set up base camp. June nodded. He was perfect for the job. Before joining the Pathfinder crew, he had been a ranger in the Earth Defense Force. He could move quietly and stay hidden for days if needed. There's also another ship about 7 kilometers west, Han continued. Non-human. Be careful. Understood, Jun said, picking up his pack. It contained water, food, a med kit, and basic survival tools. He also took his knife, a gift from his father, and clipped it to his belt. Outside, the orange sky of Veros cast strange shadows across the land. June took a deep breath of the filtered air through his mask. It was thin but breathable for humans. He set off toward the energy readings, keeping his steps light and his eyes alert. After an hour of careful movement, June spotted something in the distance. He dropped to the ground and pulled out his binoculars. Through them, he saw a small hover vehicle moving slowly across the terrain. 2 figures sat inside, wearing blue suits with clear helmets. Aliens, June whispered to himself. They were thin and blue-skinned with large, dark eyes. Their movements were careful and precise. Keeping low, June followed the hover vehicle. The aliens stopped often to examine plants and take samples. They seemed peaceful. Scientists, probably. June noticed how gentle and delicate their movements were. Their thin fingers worked with amazing precision. Suddenly, the sky darkened. June looked up to see heavy clouds gathering. His weather sensor beeped with a warning. Storm approaching. The aliens noticed too. They packed their samples quickly and headed back toward their ship. June followed at a safe distance, wanting to know more about these strange visitors. Before either of them got far, the storm hit. Wind howled across the plains, and lightning cracked the sky. The hover vehicle struggled against the powerful gusts. June saw it shake, and then drop to the ground as its engines failed. The 2 aliens climbed out, clearly distressed. They tried to fix the vehicle, but the wind kept pushing them back. One of them, the smaller one, nearly fell when a particularly strong gust hit. June made a quick decision. These aliens needed help, and a storm like this could be deadly on an unknown planet. He activated his comm device. Captain, I've found the aliens. They're stranded in the storm. I'm going to make contact. Be careful, June, Han replied. Remember first contact protocols. June stood and walked toward the aliens, keeping his hands visible and his movements slow. The aliens saw him and froze. The taller one pushed the smaller one behind him in a protective gesture. Hello, June said, though he knew they wouldn't understand. He tapped his chest. June. Then he pointed to the dark clouds and made a shelter shape with his hands. The aliens looked at each other. After a moment, the taller one nodded and spoke in a musical language. The smaller one, June could now see it was female, stepped forward with curiosity in her large eyes. June pointed to a cave he had spotted nearby. The aliens understood and followed him. Inside the cave, they were safe from the howling wind. June activated his portable heater, and warm air filled the small space. The female alien was watching him with fascination. She pointed to herself and said, Nari. Nari, June repeated, smiling. I'm June. The male alien introduced himself as Min. Using simple gestures, June learned their ship was nearby. He activated his comm again. Captain, I'm sheltering with 2 aliens in a cave. They seem friendly. Scientific type. I'll bring them to base camp when the storm passes. As they waited for the storm to end, Jun showed Nari and Min his equipment. They were amazed by his simple tools, and especially by how he moved, confident and strong in a way they were not. None of them knew that this chance meeting was just the beginning. Greater dangers waited on Veros, and soon, Nari would see exactly what humans were capable of. After the storm passed, June led Nari and Min back to the human base camp. Captain Han greeted them warmly and invited the Ilunians to share their meal. The rest of the human crew watched with interest as the slim, blue aliens carefully examined everything around them. "Your ship is very sturdy," Neri said through a simple translation device Min had brought. "Ours is more advanced, but not as strong." "Humans build things to last," Han replied with a smile. "We come from a tough world." Neri was fascinated by the humans. They moved with such ease, as if the higher gravity of Veros didn't bother them at all. Their skin was thick, their muscles powerful. When June carried a heavy box of equipment with one hand, Neri could hardly believe her eyes. It would have taken 3 Illumians to lift the same weight. "We should return to our team," Min said after they had eaten. "Dad will be worried." June offered to escort them back. "The storm might have stirred up the local wildlife. It's safer if I come along." They traveled together to the Illumian research station. Dad was waiting outside, his face tight with concern. When he saw the humans, he stepped back in surprise. "What happened? Who are they?" he asked. Min explained how June had helped them during the storm. Dad relaxed slightly but still seemed nervous around the humans. "Thank you for helping my team," he said to June and Han. "Perhaps you would like to see our research. We are studying the unique plant life of Veros." Inside the Illumian ship, alarms suddenly began to sound. Sun, the pilot, rushed to the control room. "The shield generators are failing," he called out. "The storm damaged the main power unit." Day's face turned a pale blue. "How long until complete failure?" "Minutes, maybe less," Sun replied, his fingers flying over the controls. "And the sensors show multiple large life forms approaching from the north. The storm must have driven them this way." "Razorbacks," Neri whispered, fear in her voice. Han stepped forward. "We can help. Our ship has stronger shields." "There's no time to reach your ship," Daz said, looking at the emergency display. "We need to evacuate now. We have 2 transport vehicles that still work." The Illumians moved quickly, gathering essential equipment and research samples. June helped carry the heavier items. Outside, they could hear distant roaring sounds getting closer. "They're coming fast," Ta said, checking the scanner. "At least 5 Razorbacks, maybe more." Just as they finished loading the vehicles, the shield around the station flickered and died. A warning siren blared. "Move now," Dai shouted. The first transport took off with Da, Sun, and 2 other Illumians. Han and 3 human crew members climbed into the second vehicle with Tai at the controls. June was helping Min secure the last of the scientific equipment when they heard a terrifying screech. A massive creature burst from the tree line. A Razorback. It was huge, with armored skin and razor-sharp claws. Its 6 legs carried it across the ground faster than any human could run. Behind it came 4 more, their jaws snapping hungrily. "Get in," June shouted to Min, pushing him toward the vehicle. The transport lifted off just as the first Razorback reached them. Its claws scraped against the bottom of the vehicle, leaving deep scratches in the metal. As they rose into the air, Nari's voice came over the communication system, panic clear in her words. "Wait, I'm still here. I went back for the core samples." June looked down and saw her, a small blue figure running from the research station, clutching a container to her chest. A Razorback had spotted her and was charging straight toward her. Without hesitation, June jumped from the hovering transport. He landed hard on the ground, rolled to absorb the impact, and sprinted toward Neri. The Illumians in the transport cried out in shock at what the human had done. Han's voice crackled over June's comm. "June, what are you doing?" "Saving a life," June replied, running faster than he ever had before. The Razorback was closing in on Neri, who had tripped and fallen. She looked up in terror as the beast leaped toward her, its claws extended. June reached Neri just as the Razorback pounced. He shoved her aside and rolled in the opposite direction. The beast's claws missed them both by inches. It skidded to a stop, turned, and roared in anger. "Run," June shouted, pulling Neri to her feet. The Razorback charged again. June pushed Neri behind a large rock and faced the creature. He pulled out his knife, the only weapon he had. The beast was 3 times his size, with armor-like skin and teeth as long as his fingers. June. Han's voice came through his comm device. "We're coming back for you." "No," June replied. "There are too many of them now. Get to safety. We'll find another way." The razorback lunged. June dodged to the side and slashed with his knife. The blade barely scratched the creature's tough hide. The beast swung its massive paw, catching June's side and sending him flying into a tree. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself to stand. Neri watched in horror. No Ilunian could survive such a hit. Yet the human was getting up, ready to fight again. It seemed impossible. Suddenly, the ground beneath the razorback exploded. The beast howled and backed away. June looked around and saw Neri holding a small device. "Portable sample drill," she explained. "It was in my kit." June grinned through his pain. Quick thinking. The razorback was confused but not hurt. It circled them, looking for another angle of attack. Behind it, more beasts were emerging from the trees. "We need to move," June said, scanning the area. "There." He pointed to a narrow canyon about 100 meters away. "They're too big to follow us through there." They ran. Neri struggled to keep up with June's pace. Her thin legs weren't built for speed, and the higher gravity of Veros made every step difficult. June noticed her falling behind and turned back. Without hesitation, he picked her up and carried her. Neri was shocked by his strength. They reached the canyon just as the pack of razorbacks closed in. June set Neri down, and they squeezed through the narrow entrance. The beasts roared in frustration as they tried to follow but couldn't fit their large bodies through the gap. Inside the canyon, June checked his comm device. It was damaged from his impact with the tree. "No signal," he said. "We can't call for help." Neri examined her own communication unit. "Mine is working, but the storm created interference. The signal can't reach my team." June looked at the sky. "It's getting dark. We need to find shelter for the night." They moved deeper into the canyon. Neri was limping slightly, her blue skin torn in places where she had fallen. Her protective suit was damaged, and June could see she was in pain. "Let me help," he said, stopping to look at her injuries. "I'm fine." Neri insisted, though she clearly wasn't. "Ilunians heal quickly." June raised an eyebrow. "Not as quickly as you need to. Those beasts can smell blood, and your suit is leaking air. It has your scent all over it." Neri hadn't thought of that. She watched as June tore strips from his own shirt to bind her wounds. His hands were rough but gentle. She had never been this close to a human before. His skin was so different from hers, thick and warm, covered with strange hair in some places. "Why did you jump from the transport?" she asked. "You could have died." June continued working on her wounds. "You needed help. That's all. But I'm not your species, not your responsibility." June looked up at her, his brown eyes serious. "That doesn't matter to humans. Life is life." As darkness fell, they found a small cave. June checked it carefully before letting Neri enter. He built a small fire using branches and some emergency fuel from his pack. The warm light filled the space. "We should rest," he said. "Tomorrow we'll need to find a way back to our ships or to the emergency meeting point." Neri looked out at the dark canyon. The roars of razorbacks echoed in the distance. They were still out there, hunting. Without June, she would already be dead. She turned to look at the human, who was checking his weapons and supplies with calm efficiency. "Thank you," she said softly, "for saving my life." June smiled. "Get some sleep. We have a long journey ahead of us." Neri woke to strange sounds. It was early morning, and light was just beginning to fill the cave. June was not beside the fire where he had been sleeping. She sat up quickly, feeling a moment of panic. "June," she called out. "Over here," his voice answered from the cave entrance. Neri found him crouched by the opening, watching something. She knelt beside him and looked out. A small group of razorbacks was moving through the canyon, sniffing the ground. They were searching. "They're looking for us," June whispered. "They can smell your blood from yesterday." Neri's heart beat faster. "What do we do?" "Wait. They can't fit through this cave entrance. We're safe for now." June turned to look at her. "How are your wounds?" Neri checked the bandages June had made. "Better. Ilunians heal quickly, like I said." June nodded. "Good. We need to move soon. I've been looking at my map. There's a river about 5 kilometers east of here. If we can reach it, we can wash away our scent and make it harder for them to track us." 5 kilometers? Neri looked worried. "That's far for me, especially with my injured leg." June smiled. "We'll take it slow. I won't leave you behind." They ate a small breakfast from June's pack. As they prepared to leave, June checked outside again. The razorbacks had moved on, but they could return at any time. "Stay close to me," he said. "If I tell you to hide or run, do it without asking why. Understand?" Neri nodded. "I understand." They left the cave and moved carefully through the canyon. June walked slightly ahead, watching for danger. Neri noticed how he moved. Confident but cautious, always aware of their surroundings. It was so different from how Ilunians behaved. "Your species," she said as they walked. "You're built for this, aren't you? For survival in dangerous places." June thought about it. "I guess we are. Earth, our home planet, wasn't easy on us. We had to be tough to survive." "Ilun is peaceful," Neri said. "No large predators, mild weather. We never needed to be strong." "Different planets, different paths," June replied. "But we're both here now." After an hour, they reached the end of the canyon. The open land beyond offered no cover. In the distance, they could see a line of trees that marked the river. But between them and the trees was nothing but open ground. "We'll be exposed," Neri said, fear in her voice. June studied the area. "Yes, but we don't have a choice. The canyon is a dead end, and the razorbacks will come back. We have to cross." He checked his knife and the small emergency beacon from his pack. It wasn't working properly after being damaged, but he kept it anyway. "Ready?" he asked. Neri took a deep breath and nodded. They moved out onto the open ground. June kept their pace steady but not too fast, knowing Neri couldn't run for long. Every few minutes, he stopped to listen and look around. The land seemed empty, but June remained alert. They were halfway to the trees when Neri heard a sound that made her freeze. A low growl came from behind a large rock ahead of them. June pushed her behind him just as a razorback stepped into view. It was alone, separated from its pack, but one was enough. The beast snarled, showing its razor-sharp teeth. It began to circle them, looking for the best angle to attack. "When I move toward it, you run for the trees," June whispered to Neri. "What?" "No, it will kill you," Neri protested. "I'll distract it. You run. That's the plan." Before Neri could argue more, the razorback charged. June pushed her hard to one side and faced the beast. He had found a thick branch in the canyon and now held it like a club. The razorback's claws swiped at him. June ducked and struck the creature's leg with his branch. The beast roared in pain and anger. June backed away, drawing it from Neri. "Run," he shouted. Neri hesitated, watching in horror and amazement as the human faced the massive predator. Then she turned and ran for the trees, her injured leg burning with pain. Behind her, she heard the sounds of the fight, roars, the crack of wood, and June's shouts. As she reached the edge of the trees, Neri looked back. What she saw made her heart stop. Neri watched in horror as the razorback pinned June to the ground. Its massive jaws moved toward his face. But then, somehow, June twisted and drove his knife deep into the soft spot under the creature's jaw, the one weak point in its armored skin. The razorback screamed and pulled back. Black blood poured from its wound. It staggered, tried to attack again, then collapsed. June rolled away and stood up, breathing hard. His arm was bleeding and his clothes were torn, but he was alive. Nari couldn't believe it. No Ilunian could have survived that attack, let alone defeated a razorback with just a knife. June limped toward her. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Am I okay?" Nari said, shocked. "You just killed a razorback with a knife." June smiled weakly. "Not my first dangerous animal. Come on, we need to reach the river before more come. That scream will bring the pack." They hurried through the trees. June was hurt, but he refused to slow down. Soon they heard the sound of rushing water. The river was wide and fast, with rocky banks. "We need to cross," June said. "The water will hide our scent." Nari looked at the rushing water with fear. "I can't swim well, especially not in this gravity." "I'll help you," June said. He found a fallen log near the bank. "We'll use this. I'll guide it across with you on it." They pushed the log into the water. Nari climbed on, holding tight. June waded in, wincing as the cold water hit his wounds. He began pushing the log across, swimming with one arm while guiding it with the other. The current was strong. Halfway across, June lost his grip on the log. Nari cried out as she began to drift downstream. Without hesitation, June swam after her, fighting against the current. He caught the log and pulled it toward the far bank. They collapsed on the shore, both soaking wet and exhausted. "Thank you," Nari said when she could speak again. "You saved me." Again. June nodded, too tired to speak. After a few minutes, he checked his map. "We're about 10 kilometers from the emergency meeting point. If we follow the river downstream, we should reach it by tomorrow." As they rested, Nari studied the human. His wounds from the razorback were already stopping bleeding. His body was healing itself at an amazing rate. "How do you do that?" she asked, pointing to his arm. "Do what?" "Heal so fast, fight so well, survive things that would kill an Ilunian." June shrugged. "Just how we're made, I guess. Humans evolved on a dangerous world. Those who couldn't heal fast or fight well didn't survive to have children. We evolved differently," Nari said. "Ilunians focused on intelligence and technology. We changed our world to suit us instead of changing ourselves to suit our world." "Different paths," Jun said, repeating his words from earlier. "Neither is better or worse, just different." They began walking again, following the river. The landscape of Veros was beautiful but dangerous. Strange plants grew along the water's edge. Colorful flying creatures darted through the air. Nari told June about her research as they walked. She was studying the plants of Veros, looking for new medicines for her people. The samples she had saved contained rare plants with amazing healing properties. "That's why I went back," she explained. "These plants could save thousands of Ilunian lives." June nodded. "That was brave." "Not as brave as fighting a razorback," Nari said with a small smile. As the sun began to set, they found a good place to camp, a small cave near the river. June built another fire, and they ate the last of his food. Tomorrow would be harder without supplies. "We're getting close," June said, looking at his map again. "The meeting point should be just a few hours from here." Nari felt hope rising in her. Maybe they would survive this after all. But then a familiar sound echoed in the distance, the roar of razorbacks. "They've found our trail again," Jun said, his face grim. "But we crossed the river," Nari said. "How?" "They're good hunters," Jun replied, "and they don't give up easily." He stood and looked out into the growing darkness. "Get some rest. I'll take first watch. Tomorrow will be a hard day." As Nari tried to sleep, she thought about everything Jun had done to keep her alive. No Ilunian would have survived what he had. Humans were truly remarkable creatures. Morning came too quickly. Jun woke Nari before the sun rose. "We need to move now," he said. I heard razorbacks moving closer during the night. They packed quickly and left the cave. The air was cold, and mist hung over the river. They followed the water, moving as fast as Neri could manage with her injured leg. "How far to the meeting point?" she asked. "About 5 kilometers, Jun replied. "But there's a problem." He pointed ahead, where the river valley narrowed between two steep hills. "We have to go through that pass. It's the only way." Neri understood his worry. The narrow pass was a perfect place for an ambush. If razorbacks were waiting there, they would be trapped. They walked for an hour. The roars behind them grew louder. The pack was gaining on them. "They're hurting us," Jun said, his face grim. "Driving us toward the pass where others are waiting." "How do you know?" Nari asked. "It's what I would do if I were hunting." Jun stopped walking and looked around. "We need another way." But there was no other way. Steep cliffs rose on both sides of the valley. They could either go through the pass or turn back and face the pack that was following them. "We have no choice," Neri said. "We have to try the pass." Jun nodded. "Stay close to me." They approached the narrow pass carefully. Jun picked up a long stick and wrapped cloth around one end. He used the last of his fire starter to light it. "Razorbacks don't like fire," he explained. They entered the pass, moving slowly. Rocks rose high on both sides. The path was narrow, barely wide enough for two people to walk side by side. Jun held the torch in one hand and his knife in the other. They were halfway through when they heard it, the sound of claws on rock above them. Jun looked up. 3 razorbacks were on the cliffs, looking down at them. Ahead, 2 more appeared on the path, blocking their way. "There's too many," Nari whispered, fear in her voice. Jun handed her the torch. "Hold this. When I say run, go past them as fast as you can. The fire will scare them enough to give you a few seconds." "What about you?" Nari asked. "I'll be right behind you," Jun said, but his eyes told a different story. Before Nari could protest, one of the razorbacks jumped down from the cliff, landing on the path behind them. They were trapped between the beasts. "Now," Jun shouted. He ran toward the 2 razorbacks ahead, waving his arms and shouting. The sudden attack surprised the creatures. They backed up slightly. Nari ran forward, waving the torch. The razorback snarled but moved aside enough for her to slip past. She turned back to see Jun facing all 3 beasts at once. He had no chance. But Nari didn't run. Instead, she reached into her sample bag. Among the plants she had collected was one the Ilunians called stink root. Its smell was so terrible that even Ilunians with their weak sense of smell found it unbearable. Quickly, she crushed the plant and threw it at the razorbacks. The effect was immediate. The creatures howled and backed away, shaking their heads. The smell was overwhelming to their sensitive noses. "Jun, now," Nari shouted. Jun understood immediately. He ran past the confused beasts and joined Nari. Together, they sprinted through the rest of the pass and into the open valley beyond. Behind them, the razorbacks were still reeling from the terrible smell. It would keep them away for a while, but not forever. "Quick thinking," Jun said, breathing hard. "You saved us both." Nari smiled. "We saved each other." In the distance, they could see a column of smoke rising. "That's it," Jun said. "The emergency meeting point. We're almost there." They walked toward the smoke, tired but hopeful. Jun looked at Nari with new respect. "You Ilunians are tougher than you look. And you humans are smarter than you look," she replied with a small smile. The sound of engines came from above. They looked up to see 2 transport vehicles flying toward them. Help had arrived. But their journey wasn't over yet. One last challenge waited for them before they reached safety. Minna flew her ship back to her home planet. When she landed, many of her people came to greet her. They called her a hero for surviving alone on the dangerous alien world. They asked her to tell them all about what happened. Minna told them the story of how she crashed on the planet. She described the scary alien beasts that tried to kill her. But most of all, she talked about Jae-sung, the brave human who saved her life. She explained how Jae-sung fought off the creatures to protect her. She shared how he helped her find food and water. Most of all, she described his strength, courage, and kind heart. Mina's people were amazed by the stories of Jae-sung. They had always thought of their own species as weak and vulnerable. But Jae-sung showed that maybe together, aliens and humans could do incredible things. But as the excitement faded, Mina started to feel sad. She realized how much she missed Jae-sung. Even though they were from different worlds, they had formed a special bond. Mina knew it would be almost impossible for them to be together, but she couldn't stop thinking about him. Mina tried to focus on her work, using her planet's advanced science to invent new technologies. But thoughts of Jae-sung kept coming into her mind. She remembered how he made her feel safe and happy, even when everything seemed hopeless. Finally, Mina decided she had to do something. She went to talk to the smartest scientists on her planet. She asked them if there was any way to change her DNA to become more compatible with humans. The scientists told Mina it would be very difficult. It might take many years of research and experimenting. And even then, there was no guarantee it would work. Her people had never tried to change themselves in such a big way before. But Mina was determined. She told the scientists she would do whatever it takes, for however long was needed. She was ready to devote her life to finding a way to be with Jae-sung. So Mina and the team of scientists got to work. They studied human biology and tried to find ways to match it with their own alien genetics. They looked for the important traits that made humans so strong and resilient. Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. Progress was slow, with many challenges and setbacks, but Mina refused to give up on her dream. Every day, she thought about Jae-sung and the brief but precious time they spent together. Those memories gave her the strength to keep pushing forward, even when the task seemed impossible. Mina didn't know how long it would take, or if she would even succeed. Modifying her entire species was a huge undertaking, harder than anything her people had ever attempted before. But she had to try, no matter what, because a life without Jae-sung seemed empty and colorless now that she knew what it felt like to truly connect with someone. And so Mina forged ahead with fierce hope in her heart, determined to create a future where the bravest human and alien explorers could become so much more than just friends. A future where their bond of survival and sacrifice could grow into an unbreakable love, written in the stars for all eternity.